There are moments in life when everything in you wants to run ahead, when the weight of waiting feels unbearable, and the silence of heaven sounds louder than thunder. You've prayed, you've believed, you've stood on the promises, and yet nothing seems to move. In those moments, the temptation to doubt, to quit, to give up on the dream becomes fierce. But hear me today, faith is not proven in the moments when everything is moving quickly. Faith is forged in the seasons when nothing seems to be happening. Patience is not weakness, patience is strength restrained. It is faith stretched out over time. When you can wait with trust, when you can endure without bitterness, when you can keep believing though your eyes see no evidence, you step into the kind of faith that moves mountains. Faith without patience is like a seed planted in rocky soil. It sprouts quickly, but it withers because it has no root. But faith with patience, that seed digs deep, anchors strong, and in due season, it brings forth a harvest that no storm can destroy. Don't confuse delay with denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Sometimes the waiting is not about you getting ready for the blessing. It's about the blessing getting ready for you. You think you're waiting on the promise, but the promise is being prepared for your arrival. God doesn't just give you what you ask for. He aligns it, He fashions it, He seasons it. So when it shows up, it fits you perfectly. If you receive too early, what was meant to bless you could crush you. Patience is the bridge between your now and your not yet. It is the space where character is built, where humility is shaped, where trust is purified. That's why some doors don't open the first time you knock. That's why some prayers linger unanswered. Because faith without patience is impulsive, but faith with patience is unstoppable. So, don't despise the waiting room. Don't curse the process. Don't throw away your confidence just because it's taking longer than you thought. A delay does not diminish destiny. The promise still stands. The dream is still alive. The harvest is still coming. Faith says, I believe. Patience says, I will wait. Together, they say, I cannot be defeated. In life, there will always be seasons when you are called to hold on to something you cannot yet see, to cling to a promise that feels distant, to trust in an outcome that has not yet revealed itself. Faith and patience walk hand in hand, and the deeper you go in life, the more you begin to realize that one without the other cannot carry you to the place of destiny. Faith is the ignition that sparks hope, but patience is the engine that carries you through the long journey when the road is rough and the night feels endless. Too many people have faith for a moment, but they lack the endurance to wait it out, to stay planted when nothing is moving, to believe even when the evidence tells them it's impossible. Yet the truth is that the waiting season is often the most fertile season of your life. It is in the silence of waiting that strength is forged, character is shaped, and resilience is born. There is power in patience because patience is not passive. It is not sitting back, folding your arms, and doing nothing. Patience is active trust. It is the decision to keep showing up, keep working, keep sowing seeds even though you haven't yet seen the harvest. When you learn to wait with faith, you are saying, I believe so strongly in what is ahead that I refuse to let my present circumstance dictate my expectation. The greatest victories are not won by those who sprint for a moment, but by those who can endure the marathon, who can push through the stretches where nothing seems to be changing and still keep their eyes fixed on the prize. Faith without patience makes you reckless, rushing into things before their time, trying to force doors open that are not ready to be unlocked. But faith with patience gives you stability because you understand that timing matters. What is meant for you cannot be taken from you, but if you try to grasp it before it is ready, it can break you instead of bless you. Sometimes the very thing you are crying out for is not yet ready to meet you where you are. Sometimes blessing needs to mature. The people connected to your destiny need to be positioned, the resources need to be aligned, and your own spirit needs to be strengthened. When you combine faith and patience, you are declaring that you trust the process. You are saying, even though I do not see it, I know it is being prepared. Even though I cannot touch it, I know it exists. Even though the waiting hurts, I know it is working for my good. And as you keep standing, as you keep believing, as you keep waiting without wavering, you are building a kind of strength that no delay can break and no storm can destroy. There are times when you pray with all your might and still the heavens remain silent. When you give everything you have and still nothing seems to break loose. When you believe with your whole heart and yet the door remains closed. It is in those moments that patience becomes the companion of faith, because without patience, faith will collapse under the weight of delay. Patience teaches you how to endure the silence without losing your song, how to stand still while the ground beneath you feels uncertain, how to trust that just because you cannot hear movement does not mean that nothing is happening. The unseen work is often the most powerful work, and patience allows you to remain in position long enough for the unseen to become visible. Faith will give you the courage to dream, but patience will give you the courage to wait. And waiting is not easy because waiting challenges your pride. It confronts your insecurities. It tests your belief in ways nothing else can. Waiting will whisper to you that maybe you are forgotten. Maybe the promise was never real. Maybe the vision was just your imagination. Yet patience silences those voices, reminding you that delay is not denial and that time is not your enemy. Time is the tool through which faith is perfected. Time is the proving ground of trust. Time is the place where your roots go deeper, where your heart grows stronger, where your dependence shifts from yourself to the one who holds the future. Every seed requires time before it bears fruit. No farmer plants in the soil and expects an instant harvest. The waiting season is part of the design, and so it is with your life. When you learn to be patient, you learn to trust the invisible process. You learn to believe that just because you cannot see growth does not mean growth is not happening. Beneath the soil of your life, there are roots developing, foundations being laid, preparations being made for a harvest that will outlast storms. Without patience, you would pull the seed from the ground too soon and abort the promise before it has a chance to bloom. Patience is also protection, because what you are not ready to handle can destroy you if it arrives too early. Some doors are locked not because they are closed to you forever, but because stepping through them now would overwhelm you. Some relationships do not come together instantly because the people involved are still being shaped. Some opportunities do not appear when you want them to because the stage is still being built. Patience shields you from premature exposure. It holds you back until you are strong enough, wise enough, and equipped enough to handle what is waiting on the other side. When you anchor faith with patience, you develop endurance, and endurance is what separates those who give up from those who finish strong. Faith without patience gives up at the first sign of trouble. Faith with patience can outlast the storm, withstand the pressure, and keep standing until the promise arrives in its fullness. Faith and patience are not simply virtues that sound good in theory. They are forces that shape the very trajectory of your life. Faith gives you the vision of what can be. It paints the picture of possibility. It opens your spirit to see beyond your current limitation. But patience is what sustains you as you walk the long road between vision and fulfillment. Without patience, faith is like a firework. It explodes brilliantly for a moment and then disappears into the night sky. With patience, faith becomes a steady flame that refuses to be extinguished no matter how fierce the winds may blow. There are battles you will face where sheer strength cannot carry you through, where intellect cannot provide the answers, where connections cannot open the doors. It is only faith, steady and unshaken, coupled with patience, enduring and unrelenting, that will guide you safely through. You cannot allow yourself to live only on what is immediate, because immediacy is deceptive. Quick success can blind you. Quick results can spoil you. Quick doors can distract you. But when you have learned to wait, when you have learned to endure, when you have learned to hold on when everything in you screams to let go, then you are truly prepared for the magnitude of what is coming. Patience is the proof of faith. Anybody can believe for a moment, but it takes a different kind of strength to keep believing when The clock keeps ticking and nothing has changed. It is not faith if it collapses in the waiting. Real faith does not expire. Real faith does not wither. Real faith does not surrender to the calendar. Real faith says, even if it takes longer than I thought, I will stand. Even if the path winds and bends, I will walk. Even if tears fall down my face, I will not quit. Patience holds your soul steady when your emotions want to run wild, when fear tries to creep in, when doubt pounds at the door of your heart. Waiting is not wasted time. Waiting is working time. In the waiting, strength is being built. In the waiting, wisdom is being sharpened. In the waiting, your spirit is being refined. The waiting room is the training ground for greatness, and those who despise the waiting will never taste the fullness of the promise. You cannot rush the process because the process is preparing you for permanence. A blessing that comes too soon can be lost, but a blessing received in its season will be sustained. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history did not come instantly, but were birthed through years of persistence, through seasons of silence, through long nights of struggle. It was not just faith that carried them, it was patience that kept them standing when faith was tested. Patience kept their hope alive when results seemed dead. Patience anchored them until the promise finally broke through the clouds. And when it came, it did not just come as a small answer. It came as overflow, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. There are moments when the weight of life presses so hard that even breathing feels like a battle, when everything you planned collapses before your eyes, when the dreams you carried slip through your fingers, and all you are left with is disappointment and silence. It is in these moments that faith and patience do their greatest work, because it is easy to trust when everything is falling into place. But the real strength of belief is revealed when nothing makes sense. Patience is not only about waiting for blessings to come, it is about enduring the storms without breaking, about standing still when the winds howl, about refusing to let your heart surrender to despair. Faith is the hand that holds onto hope, and patience is the anchor that keeps you steady when the waves rise higher than your head. Every trial has the power to make you bitter or to make you better, and patience determines the outcome. When you are patient, you begin to see the storm not as punishment but as preparation. You begin to understand that the pain you feel is not wasted, that every tear is watering the soil of your destiny, that every delay is shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of greater glory. The process may bruise you, but it will not break you if you refuse to give up. Waiting does not mean you are weak. It means you are strong enough to last. Patience turns your scars into lessons, your silence into wisdom, and your waiting into a testimony. Faith alone can give you vision, but patience teaches you discipline. Faith alone can give you dreams, but patience gives you the endurance to see them fulfilled. Without patience, you will always be tempted to quit in the middle, to abandon what you started, to run from the process before it is complete. Patience strengthens your resolve so that you do not give up halfway through the journey. It whispers to your soul that what is coming is worth every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night, every season of being misunderstood. It teaches you to trust that timing is as important as promise, and that what is delayed is not destroyed. When faith and patience work together, you rise above discouragement. You learn to hope again when hope seems lost, to keep moving forward when the road is long, to keep believing that there is a harvest even when the field looks empty. That union creates an inner power that no storm, no delay, and no disappointment can take away.